Hey everybody, welcome back to Harles Garage. Well, I finally get to use my rooftop tent. I've had it for about 2 weeks now, and I'm going on this little quick, just kind of camping trip here. And I say camping trip, I'm actually at my family's land here in Central Texas, in a nice little open spot. Yeah, I'm kind of cheating. There's a house, our house is right next door here. But I wanted to obviously use the tent first before I just went out in the middle of nowhere. See how it feels, see what I, like, dislike, or things, I might need to change, gear, etc. So in this video, I'm just going to finally get to use this tent. But I also wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to do kind of a behind the scenes on some of the astrophotography that I do and show y'all how I take pictures of the night sky. If you followed my channel really for any number of time, you'll know, and if you look at my old previous videos, that I've shot the Milky Way for the last 10 years, and I really enjoy and love shooting the night sky. So what I wanted to do was kind of bring y'all along with me tonight, show y'all how I set up my camera gear to shoot the Milky Way, the night sky. That way, if you've got a truck, a rooftop tent, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you want to get some cool photos of your rig under the stars, you can. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tent deployed and set up. It's really windy, and so this will also be a good test to see how the tie downs and everything handles. But I'll go ahead and get this set up real quick, and then I'll just run you through some of my camera gear, okay? All right, got my truck tent set up here. Only took about 15 minutes to get it all set up. I'm gonna leave, since it's so windy tonight, I'm gonna leave the windows closed. And it's not supposed to be really cold, only around in the mid-low 50s. But just have them cracked open just so I get a little ventilation in. Just because it's so windy, I don't want them flapping around the entire night. But here I'll show you my camera setup and kind of give you a brief rundown on how I shoot the Milky Way. Now, I'm going to start from the ground up here. I'm using a gitzo tripod, really thick, heavy-duty carbon fiber tripod. This is a 100mm bowl with a large Cartoni Gamma fluid head on here. Now, you don't need to set up this heavy-duty for most modern DSLR and mirrorless cameras. This is kind of from my cinema rig, but I do find that having a heavy-duty tripod like this is a must, because when it's windy on a day like today, you're going to get micro vibrations and stuff. So when that happens, it's going to ruin your shot. So having a large tripod like this will help reduce that and keep your shots looking good. Now for the camera, I'm using a Fuji X-T4. This is a crop sensor mirrorless camera. What I typically do, and again, it's going to vary by situation and everything, but this is just to give you a general overview. I shoot wide open. So in my case, it's going to be f2, and that f-stop number is your aperture, and that what f2 means is that the opening of your lens is opened up all the way, which is going to gather maximum amount of light. You're going to want to focus to infinity. Now, while it's daytime out, you're not going to be able to find true infinity focus to the stars, because you want to focus for the stars. If you're off just a little bit, your stars will be blurry, and you can tell, and it will ruin your shot. So what I do for now is I typically set it in the middle of the infinity focus ring. That's typically close for every lens, but every single lens is going to be different. So for now, we're going to get it close to infinity, and once we get a little bit of dark and we can start to see some stars in the night sky, we can actually gather or use our live view function and get a focus then. With a wide angle lens like this, I'm going to shoot 30-second exposures with an ISO at 3200. I'm shooting in RAW, and I set my white balance to around 4300 Kelvin. I find that when shooting at 4300 Kelvin, that gives you a really good color rendition in ground colors, sky colors, all that. I find if you push it too warm, your sky becomes muddy. Now, because I'm shooting in RAW, you can kind of really shoot. You can shoot in auto. You can shoot in any really color temperature that you want, and a lot of that again is stylistic choice, artistic choice, what you want your image to look like. I prefer to have my Milky Way images just a little bit cool, so I usually shoot around 4300 Kelvin, then tweak later in post. that's going to be my settings. I'll go over them again. Focus to infinity, maximum aperture, 30-second exposures, and an ISO of 2500, and our white balance is going to be at 4300 Kelvin. That's going to get us, that should get us in a really nice image of my truck here and of the night sky. Typically when you're going to want to shoot a time lapse or photos, just so that you don't, photos of the night sky, so that you don't accidentally bump your camera or anything, it's great to use a interval remote or a like wireless remote so that you can remote click the shutter. I don't have one today because luckily a lot of modern DSLR and mirrorless cameras come with a built-in intervalometer, so that's a really nice feature for shooting time lapses like I'm about to do. Interval setting, interval timer shooting here, and you can set it to however many intervals you want and the number of frames you want. Typically, and this is what I've done with both Canon, Nikon, and my Fuji, I typically shoot, since I'm going to shoot 30-second exposures, I'm going to, let me go down to 0 minutes. I'm going to shoot 30-second interval, or excuse me, about 32, 33-second intervals. That gives my camera's card enough time to process the image. I'm going to let that run to infinity, so forever, until basically the card fills up. That way when I shoot, I have, you know, it's basically taking a photo almost every 30 seconds, just a little bit of time delay in between to process the photo, then it's taking the next shot. All right, one of the last things I want to point out is camera power. Now, modern mirrorless cameras still at this time pretty much suck for shooting all night time lapses because the battery will only last you a couple hundred shots. Again, that depends on which camera you're using. They're getting way better than they used to be a couple years ago, but they're still really not great, so it's best to use an external power source. Now, I'm using a V-mount battery, which typically you would use for like a large cinema camera or something like that, but this particular one has a USB outlet on it that I can use USB-C via the camera, and if I push this button here, you can see it's powering my camera. This big giant battery will last the entire night with no problems. I've used it with several mirrorless cameras. I've never had a problem with running out of battery. Typically, I could probably shoot 4 or 5 nights worth of time lapses with a battery like this hooked up to my camera. So that gives you all night power, so you can shoot from sunset to sunrise, get those really cool long shots, and not have to worry about losing your battery power. All right, guys, it's getting pretty dark out now. I've having to use a flashlight to illuminate my truck. I'm starting to see a few stars and some planets appear. So I'm about to get this time lapse started here using that interval feature that's built into the camera. But you can see here I got my framing set up, everything's ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot this time lapse right here, right now. I'll post it in the video. Of course, it'll be after the fact that I edit and put it together. But I'll get this time lapse posted for you so you guys can see, and then I'll just give you some thoughts on the tent and what I think about it after I, actually spend a night in it. All right, guys, it's morning. Hope y'all enjoyed that quick little time lapse from last night. As you can see, it got a little cloudy. Not a big deal. I think the time lapse still turned out pretty great, and that's part of shooting the night sky. Sometimes it gets cloudy, but hopefully these settings helped you out. And just remember, if you want to take pictures of the night sky with your Overland rig, or just the night sky in general, take your camera, shoot in manual mode, focus on the stars, shoot wide open, have an ISO of 1600 to 3200, and shoot 30-second exposures, and every time you'll get good photos of the night sky. As far as the tent, I found it very comfortable. It's the Nomadic 2 from Overland Vehicle Systems. I have a separate video where I unboxed the tent recently and installed it on my truck here. But this was my first night spending the night in it actually, and overall it was pretty comfortable. I left all the windows shut because we had a pretty windy night. I didn't want to think a lot of things flapping around. Only thing I'd probably do different is actually have these tied down because my rain cover flopped around quite a bit in the middle of the night. But otherwise, it was pretty comfortable, and I think I'm really going to enjoy this tent, and I look forward to using it on some more trips. Anyway, guys, that's just my quick video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. I've got a lot more content coming on both my trucks as well as some other projects. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.